The amount of debt our country carries terrifies me. The United States, we make our interest payments, but we don't prevent our debt from going up. Our debt goes up every year. And if the United States was a country, it should be staying up all night trying to figure out what the hell it's going to do about this money that it owes that it can never pay back. There are three major cost factors that take up almost the entire United States budget every year. Almost the whole thing. One is the interest payments on our debt, because we have to pay that. And then the other is Social Security and Medicare, because we have to pay that. Because we promised people we'd pay it, and they paid into it their whole lives. And so we owe them. Those are liabilities that we gotta pay. And then the third thing is the military. Now, I grew up in the military, and I personally don't want to not have a military when our current tensions with China deteriorate to the point of war. Like, I'm totally in support of funding our military. But that's, I want to say 75% of our budget, but I'm kind of just making up numbers. Almost all the budget, though, goes to those three things. Everything else the government wants to do, including all this FEMA stuff, like we either have to do it with the tiny little part of our budget that's left, or we borrow it. And I have no idea still, I never researched it, but I have no idea from whom we're borrowing this money. Like, who's got the money to give it to us? Somebody's giving it to us. Somebody else is going to be a part of our country. It's probably China. But the United States will never default on its debt. It will never default on its debt. It will print money. And when it prints enough money to pay the debt, the money's worthless. So when I think about our debt, I wonder at what point are we going to start printing money to pay the interest and everything we have is worthless? What happens when a modern economy has a worthless currency? Fringe parties need a crisis to get into power, right or left. Like an extremist fringe party needs a crisis to get into power. We have the coronavirus, we have a spiraling debt, and we have extreme polarization where our normal parties are becoming polarized. They're becoming fringe parties. The main parties are fringe parties, and the rest of the country doesn't know how to handle it. We're in the middle, but we have to pick a side.
Honestly, I think I'm not a feminist, but I still think women aren't being treated equally. I mean, how many articles are out that women are underpaid and undervalued, and we put in just as much time and energy, and now we're seeing, finally, we are now seeing more women holding executive positions. I don't think women should have to fight so hard. I don't think it's fair that, say, Biden does become our next president. I don't think it's fair that, say, something happens to him, that our first woman president is there by default. I think we're undervalued. I mean, women need to start gaining executive positions because they can. But not that we're being given it because society is telling us we have to, that every major company has to have 50% of the workforce employed by women. That's not what I'm saying. I think we need to just start being looked for our brains, because women are just as smart as men. We're just as qualified. So I don't know how that, the only way that's going to change is that more women start to open their own businesses, because they're going to start to have to hire men underneath them. I think women can do it all, but I think there's a lot of pressure on women to be able to hold that, and I don't think it's fair. So again, I feel that we need to have some equality in our homes, in the economy, in our employment, in the workforce, all of that. And I think it is starting to become more equal. And again, I feel like the only way that is going to change is more women opening their own businesses to shift. And I think that's where you're going to see everything else change. We care more about what's in our water. We're less about polluting the world. We're more, honest products and all that. And women care more about that stuff.
Finding somebody who's fit to be president and taking all of these people out of the Senate who are not working for the people. I think a good job is subjective. I think getting somebody there that cares and wants to address the issues for the times that we're going through right now. Somebody who is going to take the data and utilize it to adjust for what is going on right now. Times are changing very rapidly, and even when we look at the Constitution in this presidency is being determined by how one's opinion. I think that things need to be defined more. These interpretations are not exact, that these laws are so vague that one side can interpret it as something and then the other side can interpret it as something, and then it becomes, oh well, that's not what it says, it actually says this. Well, that's not what it says this. And so I think we need to start redefining society in general. And I think that's not going to take one person, it's going to take many people. And we need to get somebody in that is willing to give up power to allow those changes to take place.